hello everybody. Let me gently introduce our panel for tonight's debate. The Magic, Dr. Orlando. The indefatigable Kathleen Taylor.
Hello.
The Dark Lord of Transylvanian Pheromones, Ivo Ivanov. And joining us, our sponsor and in fact owner of Conroy's Emporium, Tom Conroy.
Hello, I'm very honored. I'm sorry.
Yes, you are.
You should
Oh, this is going to be terrible.
It's like, well, it's like Trump going to see El Papa, isn't it? So my first question for you to be thinking about tonight, folks, is what trope or concept from cartoons do you wish were true? And let's start with Dr. Orlando.
So I looked at this question and I thought this would be easy for me because I still watch cartoons and I use my small children as the excuse for watching cartoons still. But I could not escape my childhood desire, which was to be the Roadrunner and to have gravity have absolutely no effect on me that I didn't want it to have. If I could do anything from cartoons, it would be to just be able to arbitrarily turn off gravity.
And so when you started running, you could sort of go into the air and go before you.
With the sound effects and everything. Yep.
Yeah.
That would be me.
But it has to be close to you because if you turned off gravity, like things wouldn't happen. Like rain would go up and water would
You're
drown.
you're already like way too complicated. I'm just talking about being able to jump off.
show.
Oh,
Okay,
are you
well.
kidding? You've never listened. I mean, that's clear now.
How much do we pay Mr. Conroy to
No, I'm just
So,
thinking when I
Kathleen,
jump
what-
off
what
the
do you
cliff,
think it- what
I
would
just get
be-
to keep going. That's the only thing that's in it.
Would be good.
Yes.
Yeah,
What would be
yeah.
your concept from cartoons? What would it
Well,
be?
I like the way cartoon characters, when they smell something nice or when they're happy or something, they float. They can follow the aroma and float through the air toward the good things, and happy things fly. I think that would be cool.
That's kind of a gravity thing.
I think
It is
it's
a gravity
I think it's
thing.
2 votes for anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ivo?
I did not get the questions in advance, so I am a little surprised by this. So, are we talking about TV cartoons?
Any kind
Or-
of cartoon.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
And I suppose live motion cartoons.
How would you like to be able to paint a tunnel on a rock and go into it?
come out the other end?
On the list of things, it's probably the last one.
I don't know. That's pretty good, Kathy.
How about
no.
have your fingers smashed and be able to shake them and they'd be back to normal?
Yep. That's
I like the
good.
idea of having
Yeah.
a squeezy car. Right, so that when I'm
Squeezy car.
driving I'm driving along the highway, right, and I come up behind 2 semis who've decided between themselves that no one is going to overtake them, right, and because they're being forced to drive along at 60 miles an hour because they're in some county that's trying to raise money
They
from
drive
speeding,
next to each
they
other.
drive next to each
They
other.
do this because of Jean-Claude Van Damme, because
There's-
he has to do the stupid split, and they can't really park.
373 cars pop, I'd like to be, do
Have your car squeeze
my car
narrow?
could squeeze into little and then drive out the middle and then squeeze back out again.
That's pretty good. I
Yeah?
wonder how reasonable it is to have like always 4 fingers, like Mickey Mouse or Bart Simpson.
That's
Why
true.
in the world do they have 4
Do you know
fingers?
why I've read this 100 times? It
Really?
saves them money. It really.
Well, why not
So
go
much
with 1 finger? or 2
easier to
fingers?
draw.
It does.
actually-
it's true.
I
Yeah.
actually read, 2 things. The reason that the old-timey cartoons always wore white gloves is because there was no real good way to differentiate when you were drawing hands. If you had any kind of background whatsoever, especially when you were talking about black and white cartoons, you couldn't make out a hand unless you put it in a white glove. And because you put it in a white glove, which was puffier than the normal hand, what I read was that's why they had
Why do you have to
4
bring
fingers.
black and white and racism into
He does
things?
that
It
all
is,
the time.
it is my
everything.
reason for existence.
There's The Incredibles, obviously. I mean, if we start wishing on to cartoon powers, take the Incredibles, and you pick any one of them, and it's freaking fantastic. We had a cartoon that was extremely popular in Europe. It was French. It was called the Barbas. There was Father Barba, Mother Barba, and the Barbaroni. It was the little Barbas. They were these shapeless little creatures. They were unidentified creatures.
Sounds
You
hilarious.
want
Like
to look them up.
elephants.
The Barba. Huh?
Yeah, well, did they look like elephants?
They looked a little bit like elephants, but they were like
Yes, we had them as well.
Yes,
yeah.
and they were stretchy. They would
Yes.
stretch like the Papa Barba. His arms would stretch into like forever and grab something, and they were these magical creatures, and they were super popular. Everybody loved the Barbas, and especially Papa Barba, the father Barba. He was the head of the family, and so when I was a kid, I wanted to like have that power to be able
They
to.
were huge in France and
Yes,
places
they were
like that.
huge in France. Yeah. Also, I loved another French comic book.
I know what he's going to say.
Yeah,
I know what he's gonna
Asterix
say.
and Obelix.
Asterix, yeah.
Yeah.
Asterix and Obelix.
But they turned into cartoons. They made them into cartoons.
Are these
and-
the Barbas?
Yes, this is the Barba. Papa Barba is the pink one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's a blob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a blob.
Blobs.
They're blobs.
Okay.
Yeah, they're blobs, but they're extremely
Nice and
adorable.
easy to drive.
Adorable
to draw.
blobs.
For
How many fingers do they have? 3?
they have 3 fingers and a thumb.
Damn, they
Yeah.
saved a lot of money there.
So just for the
Yeah, well,
American
Carpenters save a
kids-
lot of money. You know, carpenters save a lot of money when they chop off their fingers.
No, it was really true. It was on
Farmers.
Actor Studio, and it was on the Simpsons. The whole Simpsons panel was there, and they said that. You know, a couple of other things. An opposite of the anti-gravity is the ability to fall all the way down a canyon and not
then stop.
And no, not well. Stop's good, but not be hurt. Like
You
some
just-
bugs. Like that would be cool if you could just jump off a tall building, land on the ground, and not hurt.
You
well,
could be
usually
smashed
you
by
get
a piano
splattered
or a
and
safe.
then you blow your finger and you get inflated.
Okay,
again.
that too.
You've seen that, or you can make you go spread eagle and you make a spread eagle shaped hole in the ground and then you climb out of it.
But there is one other thing. You said, what concept from cartoons do you wish were true? I happen to be a big fan of innocence, and I think of SpongeBob. And I love
the dirtiest
innocence.
cartoon on the planet.
That's why, that's why I love children, because they're so innocent. You just don't want to take advantage of any. I just love it. Dogs are innocent. You don't want to take advantage of them.
Not the dog we had.
Do you remember Tom
Guilty as
Terrific
sin.
on Captain Kangaroo?
I
he
do.
could change himself into anything. So if he wanted to get into a room, he would just change himself into an envelope and mail himself, or he would slide under the door and then come back. So that's a good thing too, to change a shapeshifter.
Shape-shifting.
So here's the thing: if you were able to redesign the human body, what would you change?
oh, that's
Well, that
easy.
goes without
4
saying.
fingers.
I know that. Somebody
Well,
else.
first thing is women got it all wrong. First of all, why in the world evolution developed the breasts to be on the front? It should be on the back. That would revolutionize slow
A
dancing.
little tougher to
Slow
carry the
dancing
kid,
would be so
you know?
much better if the boobs were on the back.
How so?
Where would your hands go?
Oh, yeah. That's
It's
very good.
perfect.
It's very good.
It's perfect. On the other hand, I was thinking about boobs and how misplaced they are, but they could be. I was thinking how boobs could be positioned instead of your ears, and then you would wear your bra like a headphone, headphones. That would be kind of cool.
So it's mostly
check, please,
other
waiter.
people's bodies you're thinking of changing, not your own here.
I was thinking how appropriate it would be if instead of snot we would produce gin and tonic. One nostril would make gin and the other one tonic.
So you'd be drinking out of your own nose?
Yes, and everybody will
Lord.
try to get sick. Everybody will be staying in the cold. Everybody will, like, are you sick? I want to get sick, so I'm going to be close to you. I want to get your virus so I can produce more gin and tonic. And it's going to be good because, one left nostril's gin, right nostril's tonic, and you just go. And then in the evening, we are not going to use tissue. We're going to use old-fashioned handkerchief. And then at the end of the day, you squeeze the handkerchief in a
Into a
bottle,
glass,
in a
yes.
glass.
Well,
and have
darn
it-
the luck,
yeah.
Evo. We're out of time, so maybe we could go
Well,
on to
I don't know why I took it a bit more serious. I was thinking that the the redesign I'd have, I suppose, would be that men and women are much more similar gender, and that men maybe be able to produce children and that sort of thing.
We are running out of time, really. We are right now. We have really officially ran out of time.
What do you
I
think,
was
Kathleen?
thinking a little more seriously too. I was thinking backs are a disaster.
Back.
See, I don't know.
You'd have to redesign the back so that it didn't cause everybody over the age of 27 huge pain.
See, I was thinking along those lines, but I didn't think that there was nothing about the way that we move that I would actually want to change.
No, but you could make your back out of rubber.
What we need to do is, and I'm shocked that it hasn't been developed by the evolution, is the exercise type spinning
of the head.
So you can have 360-degree coverage of your immediate environment. That's extremely important, and I think that's next on evolution's table
You
to
think?
take care of.
Well, owls can do
Okay.
that,
If
can't
I
they?
was redesigning, I would redesign us so that we aged like jellyfish.
How do
So that
jellyfish
we don't
age?
age. Jellyfish doesn't age.
They either
live
don't
forever.
age
Yeah.
or they age to a certain point and then they regress back to an earlier stage and then
Didn't
they
know
age
that.
again.
No, I didn't know that.
So yeah, there's this one particular type of jellyfish in particular that they've have documented proof that it sends itself back into a pre-adult stage. So the only
That
problem
sounds
with this
like our
is
president.
the
He does
only
it
problem with this
surgery,
is
yeah.
according to, like, if you do an analogy for that jellyfish's life and our life, it would be going back into puberty or pre-puberty every single time you started to regress your age.
Oh, that'd be a bummer.
Well, maybe.
Do you have your memories?
So that's the question. If you had your memories, would you be willing to essentially reverse your aging and go back to preteen years or prepubescent time in your life if you kept your memory and it meant you could live forever?
Oh, absolutely. That's the bad thing about reincarnation when people believe in that. If you could remember your whole previous life and then live life again, that's the greatest.
No, that wouldn't be so
Nature
great. Think of all
I
the
think
people you
so.
would have lost.
Because, like my biggest regret in the world is not saving 10% of every dollar I ever touched since I was 15. You would never miss it. And you would have a ton of money when you get to be my age.
There's there's an application that rounds up when you purchase something from the store.
Yeah.
It rounds that up. So instead of $2.96, you pay $3, and the 4 cents the app puts it in an account. And
you never see it again.
No, apparently you end up in 20 years with quite a lot of money.
Yeah. But Kathy, you were right about the loss of loved
Yeah,
ones.
nobody's going to want to outlive
But what if
everybody they've ever known.
did that? What if I'm not just talking about redesigning my body. I'm talking about redesigning like the human
And then
experience.
we wouldn't have room for new ones.
Well,
Bummer.
we're gonna run into that regardless.
Actually, talking of bums, this is another thing that's very important.
Oh,
to me.
okay.
I think bums should all look the same.
Oh, redesigning the body
That would
again.
be boring.
That would be incredibly boring.
No,
What would
I
be the
think
point of
and
sleeping
bum
around
holes
then?
should be
Yeah.
bigger.
Oh my God! I don't want Newt Gingrich's butt to look like Jennifer Lopez's butt.
Oh,
That
bottoms.
would be just
I
devastating.
thought you were
Bottoms.
talking about bums, like
no,
people
not
on the
bottoms.
streets.
No.
Bottoms. Okay.
Well, all right.
Why?
Okay, so
We like
the
different
next
kind of
question I've
bottoms.
got, which it's sort of getting there, getting where I want to go. What would be a really useful pet? It doesn't matter what sort of pet it is. You can have whatever you like, because you're able to train that. That
are using
pet, you are
imagination this
able,
week,
you
aren't
are
you?
able to magically, and before anyone, I want first choice.
Go for it.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I've always thought pterodactyls were really cool, and
But on Johnny Quest, they were really loud.
yeah, and I would train my pterodactyl to be able to talk. You see, and then I would send him off to go and get things for me. Right, and you could.
How big are pterodactyls
Well,
actually?
they're big. They're really
Are they?
big, and he could sit on the top of my Range Rover. I'd make a rack for
It
him.
would scratch it.
And he wouldn't. He'd be careful. And Eddie Izzard, who believes greatly in pterodactyls. And actually,
Does he believe in
pterodactyls
them
speak bigly, and they speak English. I don't know whether you know that,
You'd have to
like
call it
monkeys.
Pete.
And
pterodactyl.
I love the idea that Eddie had about them being able to sing hymns and things like that, and stuff.
You can't teach a pterodactyl. to
You
sing.
can, and in fact, my stepson Alec.
How do you know you can't?
Because Johnny Quest, they can't even talk English.
Like sheepdog trials, for example. Sheepdog trials, you could train your pterodactyl, right, to round up sheep, because he'd do it a heck of a lot quicker than a collie dog. He might eat one accidentally every now and then, but, you know.
That would seem to be counterproductive. And literally, like, this was my problem with this question. I'm looking at this question, I'm like, don't we have the animals that we want as pets already? Like,
Well, no. How about I would like to
thinking
have a
like-
sandworm from Dune. I never figured out quite how they use those things, how they ride them. But can
they
you
use the
imagine?
anchor hooks.
Whatever. Can you imagine having one as a pet that you could just climb on and have some way to have it safely burrowed wherever you wanted?
One cannot make Shai Hulud into a pet. That's
well.
not acceptable.
I could wear a little handkerchief around its neck.
Okay, well, we can think of a pet with magical powers. What kind of pet would have magical powers? That would be good. Does Dobby have magical powers?
Ooh,
Oh,
Dobby's
good.
an elf, though. That's not a pet.
Yeah, but what kind of powers? Not
Well,
really.
this,
nothing
yeah,
substantial.
this one is.
You
is
better get a dragon or
Maybe a
something.
little bit.
A dragon
would be cool.
Dragon.
Dragon would be good.
Okay, I got to clean up enough dog poop as it is. Like, imagining cleaning up after a dragon, not interested.
Instant barbecue, man.
But in how you can train your dragon, that cartoon that's
No.
really cool. You fly. You can fly.
you don't
places.
have to clean after a dragon. You just ask him to incinerate whatever poop he just
Yeah.
produced.
Yes.
And just boom,
Will you
it's
please
gone.
incinerate your poop? You've been told now, do it.
And all the trash, for that matter.
Yeah.
He can be just.
Gotta watch out when they
instant-
sneeze,
and stop
though. You
setting
can
fire
get
to the
severely
kitchen.
burned.
Yes. How about that Grim Reaper things from the Lord of the Rings? Those would be kind of interesting pets.
The Nazgul?
They looked exactly like Green Reapers. I don't know what they called
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
but,
The ring.
What about a Death
wraiths.
Eater?
That's just a person.
Yeah. All right.
No, I can get into this idea of the Nazgul though, because they could go kill people for you.
You know what would be a cool pet would be an invisible great white shark.
An invisible
Oh, no.
one.
Yes.
Well,
I
You
don't-
have an ocean that you could keep this thing next to your
What
house.
good is a
It doesn't-
great white shark if it's invisible?
Well, you can stick it on people they wouldn't even know.
Oh yeah, you could get blamed for it.
Well, and of course, the best pet of all would be a puka.
Ooh. An invisible 6-foot rabbit that could do magical tricks.
I tell you what, my son wanted so badly to have when he was 6, 7 years old. He was just in love with the capybaras. And
Dude, I want a capybara so bad right
they're
now.
so
I didn't
adorable.
even think about that.
There's a video.
They're
on
giant.
Yeah, he looked them up on a video on the internet, and there was one capybara. They're very lazy. That was just sitting underneath a waterfall in the Amazon. Just sitting, and the waterfall was falling on its head, and it was just sitting like that. And he just fell in love with that capybara. And we actually inquired if it's possible, and they're completely prohibited in the United States, so there's no way. But they're basically giant guinea pigs, and they have them in the Kansas City Zoo. I've seen them; they're very.
I would
funny.
like a sloth. I've always liked sloths.
Yeah,
They
those are
think
cool.
They don't do
So-
anything though, do they?
That's the whole point.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just so
I already have
cool.
one.
but
Those,
the question was a really useful pet, and a sloth isn't useful.
No, that's why I go back to a pterodactyl.
Okay.
You're going to fuck with a pterodactyl? Tom, I want a beer. No, you got to pay for it. Fred?
well, get a T-Rex then. I mean, why
See, when I
pterodactyl?
first looked at this, I was thinking about Evo will remember this. What's the podcast guy? The number one podcast guy in the whole world.
Adam Carolla.
Adam Carolla. His theory on crows. He thought that everybody should have attack crows because they have like superlative memories. They're really, really smart.
Yeah.
And
Attack crows.
Yes.
Crows are
Oh,
bitches.
man.
Yeah.
You know, get a crow with like a 4-foot wingspan to come down and attack.
It's called a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
It's a baby
Oh.
yes, but that's why I want a pterodactyl.
But see, I came at this question like from the realm of reality. What's a useful pet? Well, there's a dog, there's birds, everything else that we have for pets are like for completely not to be useful. Like there's no utility out of a hamster or no utility out of a
But
goldfish.
attack crow.
But an attack crow.
no,
People now have pet
pterodactyl.
horses.
So you know
But
you
they're
have a
big,
problem
Jeremy.
with.
They have like a 40-foot wingspan.
I know.
40?
And
Oh,
and he has a perch on the back of the old
Seriously?
Range Rover, right? I'm driving into Kansas City or wherever it is, get 2 semis messing trouble. I just go, do, and 1 semi's gone. He just goes, lifts it up, throws it off the side of the road.
And what if your pterodactyl sees a squirrel?
That is always a problem.
You know, I was in the panopticon or pantheon. Panopticon or pantheon.
Don't know if we can use that.
The pantheon of horrible puns that I've created in my lifetime. One stands out. It was relatively recent. I was watching a movie with Alina, my daughter. We were watching a movie where, believe it or not, it was a period drama with Russell Crowe it was the bad guy. And he was the villain, and we were watching it. It was just me and Alina watching it, and finally at the end, they got him killed. He got killed. The bad guy, Russell Crowe, got killed. And all I could say was I looked at Alina and I said, a murder of Crowe.
Okay, let's do something a little bit more serious, perhaps. Confederate statues should have been left standing.
Really?
Or should they be destroyed? In any event, should they be kept somewhere for future generations to decide? We've watched people tear down statues of Hitler, of Saddam Hussein, and all sorts of other people. I just wonder, this is part of America's history. There but for the grace of.
Right.
One side won and the other side didn't. What's to say that some of the Southern generals... why do we want to rip them apart? I don't know. I just wondered whether or not they should have been left where they were, or at the very least, should they be put in storage for future generations to decide?
They were not erected to commemorate their honor or how amazing they were in history. There was a strategy, and I believe I've read in enough places about this. There was a strategy to develop this cult and rebrand history. And those particular statues were built 20 years after the end of the war. And it was a very, very, very targeted strategy to maintain this mentality, to keep it through history. And it was purely evil. It was to maintain and proliferate this philosophy of racism and hatred, and maybe provide this antiseptic for the future generations, this antiseptic view of these monsters. And I think it's a good thing that they're gone finally, and kudos to, I guess, the mayor of New Orleans or whoever spearheaded this. Good job. Yeah.
So I am truly having cognitive dissonance on
I beg your pardon?
this particular topic.
Do you need a tissue?
Yes, I do. Because I am terribly glad that the statues are gone, but I don't know that I can justify them being gone.
I can just look at the idiots that showed up to protest their removal. That's the kind of people that these statues were built to foster.
Right.
And that's a perfectly good reason to get rid of them, because this is the kind of idiocy that this kind of strategy created.
But isn't that a thought crime?
Thought crime?
Yeah. I mean, they believe in something that is wrong and potentially evil, but that is based on the premises that our country's founded on. That's their right? And this is why I have a problem with this, because I believe in my heart that those statues are evil. I believe that they are disruptive. I believe that they are divisive. I want them gone. But I look at the way that Al Qaeda was portrayed in the media when they started pulling down the statues of the villages, that antiquities from religions that are older than we can possibly even count. And I look at the way that, at least when I saw that on the news, the feelings that put into me on how they were destroying history. They were going out of their way to delegitimize the culture that they were destroying. I mean, that was the point in doing it. And I say to myself, what I want to do is eliminate racism from our society. That is absolutely what I want to do. But I'm not sure that I want to do that at the cost of...
I agree. These statues have no place as monuments in public. But they are a part of history. So perhaps there would be a way to keep a number with historically accurate facts and explanations and crossed eyes or something.
Yes.
I mean, just
let me jump in,
Yeah.
because I'd like Tom to comment on this in just a moment. If you wish to get citizenship, you have to answer a number of the questions. One of the questions is, who is the father of the country? And the answer is Washington, General Washington. And there are statues of General Washington all over the place. Okay. He was a slave owner, and he went after one of his slaves who escaped, and continued by his wife, who outlived him, I believe, to hunt for this slave. So George Washington was a slave owner. He believed that he owned this woman. She was his property. And so shouldn't we take all the statues of George Washington down? Tom.
And Thomas Jefferson. And
There's no statues.
What I'm getting at, just because these guys were down from the South, right?
yeah.
Washington and co. So what's the answer? Because I'm just a foreigner. I'm just a Brit. I don't know these things.
I'm maybe the oldest one here. I don't know. I lived in the South.
No, you're the prettiest one
I'm the
here, Tom.
prettiest one. Yes.
And you got the
it's
biggest
about
watch.
time. I'm just not in this. Those statues were everywhere. I lived in Florida and Alabama and Mississippi. And, this is a new thing where everybody is starting to be offended by everything. Every blade of grass, there's something offensive about it. When, in fact, it used to be history. Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee and I disagree with Evo. Well, Evo might know something I don't know. They're
Maybe.
there. The South is definitely a different place, but everybody generally gets along. I mean, and I
gotta
mean that-
speak up.
All right,
I gotta
well, you
speak up.
can, but I visit my sister and my brother-in-law.
Are you
is a
familiar with
surgeon,
sundown
and-
towns?
Okay, well, there's always things. There's always crazies doing bad things.
No. I'm not talking about crazies doing bad things. I'm
Okay.
talking about systematized institutions in cities and towns down south that had, if not in fact racist laws on the books, racist practices. That when you say everybody
Nowadays, like what?
Absolutely.
Like what?
like the sundown towns that I just
The
mentioned.
sundown towns.
Yes.
I don't know. I've
That
never heard that phrase.
Black people could not be in town after sundown.
Well, I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're not-
I
we're not-
rode
we're
my
not over
bicycle
it yet,
across
but
the
we
country,
will
and
be
I went
someday.
through all these little towns.
Tom-
and there's
Yeah.
I've never heard that said
Tom is
before. I
absolutely
lived
right.
there.
There's
I
no
lived there.
racism in the South. There's no. Everybody's getting along. Nobody. There's no racism.
No. That's not what Tom is saying. I
no,
get what
no.
Tom is saying. I need there to be some acknowledgement that there is.
I don't know anything about this. I mean, I've been downtown in a million southern towns, and black people and white people are out at night. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So
I'm
does
sure
that
there's
then
some bad
preclude?
places everywhere.
But we're better than they were despite the existence of these statues.
Uh-huh.
And someday it's going to be a part of history that does not exist anymore.
I am not desperate to have statues of Hitler erected so they can remind us that he's part of history. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Yeah, but
I'm not desperate for
in
Lenin
favor
or
of
Stalin
getting rid
or any of those
every
assholes.
bit of film evidence of Hitler or every picture in a book. We need to know
Yeah, but
what
the-
evil looks like.
Statues is
And
different.
the statues are knowing what evil looks like.
Statue is a article of
Veneration. It's an article of-
Come
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
It's a different thing than
it's-
movies
you
or.
can't have something out there where people pay homage to it. But if you put the facts on it and keep it with that,
No.
just like with Hitler, you got to
No.
Are you
remember what he
suggesting then
did.
there should be a
You
sign
don't-
on the bottom of it saying this guy's an arsehole
Yeah.
and he killed thousands
Yeah.
of people? Right, I see. Okay.
But this is different than editing a Mark Twain book, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, the statues that we're talking about, and this is not a Rodin statue or Rodin's Inferno, huge mural. It's a statue that's erected on a public square for people to basically worship. And so I
It should be
just
taken down from there. But destroyed? I don't know about destroyed.
Well, like what's
them
the
in a
guy?
museum
William
of
or not
racism.
William?
Yeah, that'd be
what's
good.
Forrest Gump. What's the leader, the founder of the Ku Klux Klan? That statue was literally in the main park in Memphis.
Oh yeah. That's
For
right.
most of my life.
Yeah.
Like there's no real good excuse for having that statue be on public display in a public area without the disclaimer that this is the asshole that formed the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. And so again, my dissonance is from the very first moment that I saw that statue, I had two thoughts. How the fuck is this statue set up in a public place, like in a position of prominence in the park that it was set up in, and why hasn't anybody taken this down since, I don't know, the civil
maybe
rights movement?
They should be put into, as you put, a museum of racism, and in front of the statue, you provide a bucket of rotten tomatoes so that you can pick one up and lob it. Wouldn't that be good?
But
Cathartic?
okay, so like going even like further a little bit outside the context of the conversation, like it all of a sudden, like the whole notion of the Confederate flag, like should Tom, as a bar owner, be allowed to fly the Confederate or to display the Confederate flag in his bar?
Well, we can display the swastika, right, in the United States without any consequences, right?
I don't know. Should
The
there be?
swastika flag, which is absolutely forbidden in Germany.
Right.
And you're
But
gonna
it's
go to
forbidden in
jail.
Germany. See, and I think it's forbidden in Germany for the same reason that we.
Or taking down statues of the.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
you'll
it's part
know,
of,
Eva, when you come fly back in a few weeks' time,
Yeah.
there's a little form that you have to fill in. You know, this silly form they bring around.
Yeah.
And one of them says, "Are you a Nazi?" Or something like that.
Oh, I used to
Be a
when
Nazi?
No. I used to have that form when I had a. But you didn't get a passport.
Right.
You didn't get a passport, so you're still using the green card. So
Yes.
yeah, when you're a green card, you have to get. I don't get that form anymore, but I remember it. Or a member of the communist, any kind of communist.
That's right.
organization.
Yeah, you know, you're not allowed to be in one of those parties.
Yeah.
By the way, what is actually wrong with putting America first?
Well,
Nothing if America's the only place that counts.
Well, the problem is that there's no more. We are so the borders are so washed out. Everything's connected. A crisis, economic crisis in China, is going to trigger an economic crisis here, and the other way around. We're all
dumb to
connected.
say
There's
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just-
Look at, instead of having 197 or 8 countries in the world, suppose those were all people. And the biggest, strongest of them decided, hey, me first. All about me. Do you think that person would last long?
well,
Well, he's
rest-
not done so bad as Vladimir
But
Well,
what I mean is, it's like that.
since
You have
beginning
a
of history, it's
responsibility.
been like that. You know, there's always been an empire that was more powerful than others, and they would reap all the benefits.
And then pay the take
and
the
pay
consequences.
the price eventually.
Yeah.
But there's always been a big man on campus. There was the Roman Empire, the British Empire.
And when you start
Don't
bragging
forget
about
the
being a
biggest
big
one.
man on campus,
British Empire?
No. This is the thing. Like, and this actually ties back into the previous question about the statues. Like, so I'm trying to work this out in my head because, like I said, this is causing me like serious headache trying to figure out how to justify getting rid of the statues, right? And I'm thinking about, every time some major empire or something like that comes in, they take away all of the reminders of the old one, except for potentially the biggest empire that's ever existed, the Khan,
The Brits.
Genghis Khan.
Star Wars.
Oh,
when
yeah.
he came through.
No.
The Mongols.
No.
That's the biggest ever.
Au contraire. It was
Look, there's
Victorian.
5 people at this table right now. There's a pretty solid chance at least one of us is related directly to Genghis Khan.
Who's
One
got
at a
who's got the flag?
1 out of 8.
No, I mean who's got the flag?
He does have.
Now,
a Union
I have a
Jack
flag.
here.
You lot don't bother with a flag,
We
right?
put our flags in the front yard where they belong. God damn it!
You
You know
throw your
what? I suspect that the Mongol Empire didn't exist because I just the other day watched a documentary in which, according to Matt Damon, there was no Mongols attacking China. It was these reptilian monsters. There
Matt knows.
there were hundreds
Matt
of
knows.
thousands of them. Yes, they were. No, they didn't fly, but they were kind of like zombie reptiles, and that was the empire that was attacking China. That's why they built the Great Wall. And I know that
And
for
that's
a fact.
why
I
they-
watched the entire documentary.
That's why they buried all their soldiers. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Because their soldiers were zombies.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why.
Turned
Yeah,
them to
right.
terracotta. Interesting.
Interesting. No, but America, we are trying to lead an isolationist policy right now. It's too late. It's too late. Everything's connected. Everything's interconnected. Manufacturing power has shifted for good. And we can't just
And just getting out
build
there
a-
and beating our chest
Yeah.
and saying, we're the greatest, we're the first,
Well-
doesn't work anymore.
Also, you can't build a wall around air unless is that Stephen King book. And,
The Dome.
and the dome. Maybe that's what Trump needs to build, a dome. A dome.
Yeah,
over
a wall
America.
doesn't work. It's
Yeah,
got to
build
be
a
a
think
dome.
dome. I'm going to build a beautiful,
wall.
beautiful dome.
A dome that fit right over Donald Trump and sealed hermetically. That would be wonderful.
It doesn't. I don't think it's going to work, Jeremy. I don't know.
I don't know. I found I was talking to an officer out of Leavenworth a little while ago. We were talking about special forces from around the world, and he said to me that there were special forces that he wouldn't like to have to go up against, please. And there's this thing about, and then in front of 200 people, I had to do the oorah thing. It's like America is the best country in the world, unless you're a Brit. In which case, the Brits know that we're the best country in the world, unless you're French. And the French know, as do the Swiss, the Germans, the
What about the
Russians, the
Bulgarians?
Chinese, and the Bulgarians.
Yeah, it was very encouraging when the European Union formed because we have so many ancient vendettas in Europe and hatred towards our neighbors. Every neighbor hates. Everybody hates their neighbor in Europe. Even
I can't
peaceful,
stand my neighbors.
even the peaceful Scandinavians, even the Danish despise the Swedes, and the Swedes look down on the Danish. And of course, we hate the Turks, and the Turks hate somebody else. And France doesn't like England, and Germany, and the other way around. And so, when the European Union formed and the borders started dissolving, I was shocked. I couldn't believe, for example, that the monetary unit was done with. That we had a universal monetary unit, and I felt like that's kind of human evolution. That's where we're going. When you fly on an airplane above the earth, you don't see borders. We made those up. We created the countries. We created those borders. They didn't exist thousands of years ago, and 1,000 years from now, they're not going to exist again. It's just an artificial construct that was needed at some point, but eventually will go away. So, If there's an alien that arrives on Earth right now,
If?
comes in the bar,
Okay.
they land their spaceship, and
You mean space aliens?
space alien.
Okay.
Space alien arrives, lands here. Would you greet them with "Welcome to Earth," or you just like say "Welcome to Zimbabwe" or "Welcome to wherever you are"? No, you're gonna say "Welcome to Earth." We're all children of Earth, and that's something we need to remember.
You mean
That's
you
something
wouldn't
that
take out
our,
your gun and
our
shoot them?
politicians have forgotten to.
Except you would walk out of the bar here in Kansas
Yeah.
and say, "Welcome to Bulgaria."
Welcome to Lawrence. You know.
So you guys mad at like the Romanians, for instance?
We somewhat peaceful coexistence with Romanians. We share hatred towards Turkey because of the Ottoman Empire and the basic enslavement for 400 years. And same thing with. We don't like Serbia very much, which is very, very bizarre because we're very close in terms of language.
I mean, it's
culture,
it's like the rivalries with soccer.
yeah.
I mean, you know, the Brits have always had it in for the French.
Well, the problem with Europe is that if you have a neighbor, at some point you were in war with that neighbor for pulling those borders one way or the other, and so bless you, and so bless you again. And so that hatred doesn't, that war, that's blood spilled, that's vendettas, and that goes generations back, and it's hard to forget. It's really hard to forget.
You know, Jeremy, I don't see that. You know, my parents are from Ireland. I don't see a lot
They
of.
actually came across from Ireland.
Oh yeah, but I don't see. I mean, my uncles and aunts went to England. I don't see an Irish
English
anger too much.
The Brits,
There's
did you
lots
just
of
say they
Irish
don't
in
say it?
England.
No, there wasn't.
they don't like each other.
English
But
anger?
my grandparents and my great grandparents were kicked off lands and things like that, and they were practically slaves for many years. But I don't see any hatred now, except for Northern Ireland.
The old, back in Victorian times, you know, in the 1800s, and there's no doubt that Great Britain treated all sorts of different countries very, very badly. And why we did certain things. Then if you slide towards the end of the 1800s and into the turn of the next century, you had people like Churchill who were trying to continue that, you know, moving along. And I think it was only because of people like, and Hitler doing the same thing, and Stalin, it was only people like Roosevelt who didn't want to have, you know, he wanted to have America and we're done and that's it, thank you very much, you know. It wasn't, Churchill wanted to protect the empire.
Ivo, what about local rivalries? Is there anything like here? I grew up in Illinois, and like
Between
our rivals.
cities.
Yeah, our rivals were Wisconsin.
There's it's more of a
Wisconsin.
no
Those Badgers.
no
Fucking cheeseheads.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's more of a like some places look down on other places as more provincial, or they don't like their accent because they have the equivalent of a southern accent.
But no like ancient tribal rivalries.
Not in my country. There's not that many big.
But again,
countries in
what's
Europe.
interesting, you see, your Civil War wasn't that long ago,
Right.
relatively speaking.
We've still got statues up
And,
about it. Can you imagine?
and
no joke.
they've only just taken the statues down. And so Kansas and Missouri, you know, they have a thing.
Oh, we don't like Missourians, that's for sure.
Now,
No, we
how
don't
are we
really
going to
think
feel
about
about that in
Missourians.
200 years' time, or 300 years' time, or 400 years' time? Oh, now you're getting to where other countries have had civil wars 400 years ago, 500 years ago. Most people don't remember. If they live locally, oh yeah, this is where they had the battle of such and such. But they don't know. They don't know what was going on.
Still hate
And my,
each other
and my
over it.
final tonight is I'm just interested to know, you have the capability in this particular question to make a very important decision. Imagine the president issued an edict saying no foreign aid for a year. There will be no foreign aid for a year. That's just how it is. Live with it. And the money is to be spent in the USA instead, on the USA.
Yeah.
In and on. This would free up approximately $35 billion with a burr. That's what America spends in foreign aid each year. What
it's
would
not that
you
much.
What would you spend it on? And this is supposed to be a simple question, not anything terribly deep. What would you spend $35 billion on?
Put it in the Social Security Fund.
Education.
What, build some more schools or hire more teachers?
Hire more teachers.
Right.
Build some more schools.
Tom? More bars?
More bars to make everybody more happy, and they'll forget all their troubles.
You probably put a new roof on Conroy's. Yeah.
And a new air conditioning.
Right.
Boy, I'm not for more entitlements. I mean, there's always more we can do.
I was meaning, when I say America, I meant the country.
Yes,
so
the country.
I don't actually, Kathleen.
Anything that would increase economic value.
What about building bridges or?
Certainly
Yeah.
bridges.
Actually spend it on infrastructure, which
Infrastructure.
would create jobs and prevent you having to sell off the infrastructure in order to get it built, which is what the current proposals are doing.
Well, I have a suggestion, and this is going to be one of next week's questions. And unfortunately, Ivo won't be with us next week. But since he's the only person who's actually done this, this is my suggestion. $35 billion is put towards creating a non-military national service.
So like volunteer work and
A national service, a service where you can train to do medical stuff, you can
Yes.
train to do teaching, you can train
Work
to
in
lay
retirement homes.
you can build bridges,
it's good.
welding, whatever.
That's
It's
not a bad idea.
That's a great idea. That's what they do in Germany. It's a really good idea.
It's compulsory though.
Yes.
If you can go in the military if you choose, but if you don't go in the military, you've got to go in
To social.
something non-military.
It's a great idea.
Well,
Although, it's a really good idea, and some countries do that. The best way to spend the money on America is to spend it on foreign aid, because we are, like we said, everything's connected. It's not a coincidence that we spend this money on foreign aid. Ebola virus doesn't stay where you want it to. You have to spend money on health around the globe, on dealing with poverty, because it will come back to haunt you in your own country.
That's right. Yep.
Just want you to look at my notes. What is my number one answer there? Right there.
It's
And Dr. Orlando, let's finish up with Doc, because I say it's not supposed to be something terribly deep. But I just wanted to know, because I'm going to ask the question next week about a national service. What do you think? What was your answer?
My original answer was education. My first answer on my list is foreign aid, because that's where the money needs to be spent.
Yes, but he said there will be no foreign aid
Understood.
this year.
If that is just absolutely not, if I can't find a way to do that under the table, which I probably could, but if I can't find a way to do that under the table, then it would go to education. And if not education,
It's a long-term
then
investment.
it would be hookers. So if outside of those three things,
We're going to see very rich hookers.
I
Educated
very much
hookers.
like the national service idea. I'm not sure that it's very
That's a good
strategically different than education. I think that we're looking at an offshoot of the same
Because I
thing.
want to discuss this all next week, so
Right.
let's not get into it too much. But if you're listening to tonight's podcast, I don't know if they're numbered, but if they are, try and listen next week, because we're going to ask some questions about having some form of a national service, which of course is social. It's teaching people to work with other people, all sorts of different things that people could do. You've been listening to Wednesday Night Undressed. Want to thank the team, the magic Dr. Orlando, the indefatigable Kathleen Taylor, and of course the Transylvanian Lord of Dark Pheromones, who in fact will be flying there
You're
under
going to Transylvania?
probably under on his own, using his
Wing
own
power.
wings,
Yeah.
and his own wing power.
But he has to deal with the single nostril vampires
Yes.
that were there.
And that is always difficult
Yeah.
because Dracula, of course, came across here on a boat. Evo doesn't use boats. And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Tom, for being here.
And the other sponsors.
And of course, the other sponsors, before we thank our engineer, Eric, the producer, and Neil Rasmus. So many S's. And our sponsors tonight, Evo. I've forgotten who they were now.
Well, I don't know. Let's go with the television show Lost. Find out what's not going to happen 5 years ago next Sunday. So.
Well, you're going to be in a flight, and when your plane goes down, do you want us to come to any particular islands to look for you?
Well, you will find out on Lost 7 years ago.
So you want us to? Do you want us to leave you there, in the hope that there's lots of women, or what? You know.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Okay. Thank you, folks, for listening. Have a good one.